Hello, 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 mi gente. Welcome. Un poquito tarde hoy, pero estamos aquí. Okay? Welcome to Entre Letras. Today we have Victor Acosta. So, vamos a meter mano. We're going to give folks a few more minutes, Victor, before I invite you in, okay? I was at a school making a presentation y se me pasó el tiempo. Welcome. Otra vez, este espacio es para brindarle más atención a los autores que normalmente no reciben esa atención, para que ustedes los conozcan, compren sus libros, lo compartan, etcétera, etcétera. Que lo mismo que comento cada vez que nos juntamos aquí. Si usted es un autor dominicano y publicó un libro en el último año, entre los géneros de literatura infantil, poesía, no ficción creativa y ficción, entonces déjeme saber para yo invitarlos a que hagan una entrevista aquí en la plataforma y den a conocer su libro. Como he comentado antes, hay algunos libros donde yo no meto mano. O sea, si es un libro de ciencia, un texto de historia o algo así, hay algunas cosas que yo no entro. Entonces, este espacio es solamente para la literatura creativa. Creative Arts es lo que le llamamos aquí. Vamos a darle unos cuantos minutos más a las personas para que se unan a la conversación. Hello. Buenas. Quiero que Víctor tenga una buena cantidad de personas aquí conociendo su trabajo. ¿Ok? Vamos a ver. Hi, Victor.
Hola, Angie, ¿cómo
How
estás?
are you? I am so sorry for the delay.
No worries. It happens.
I was at a school initiating a book club that we're doing, and it went later than I anticipated.
Don't worry.
But today you're here because you're going to share your book with us, Shadows Beneath the Shore, right?
Yes.
We're going to talk about the English version, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
Aunque sí, señores, el libro sí está disponible en español, ¿verdad?
Eso es correcto. Está disponible en español y en audiolibro en inglés.
Oye, audiolibro. Great. So, Victor, háblame un poco de quién tú eres personalmente, ¿verdad?
Claro.
Y qué, what made you become a writer? Because let me just tell you, Victor, the majority of the Dominican authors are women.
Eso vi.
Okay?
Eso vi.
Literalmente es como contarlos con una mano.
Sí, entiendo.
Aunque yo sé que ustedes andan por ahí, pero no sé por qué razón.
Somos escasos.
Sí, la mujer es la que manda en la literatura. So, talk to me about who you are, right? And as a writer, what inspired you to tell these stories?
Yes, great question. Yes, so I was born in the Dominican Republic in 1977, and I migrated to the States when I was 11. Actually, I grew up in a town called Salcedo. That's where I was born. That was a very little town. It's actually the home of La Hermana Mirabale, as you know. So we're famous for that. Besides that, we're also famous for Rio Partido. That's like the best river ever in the Dominican Republic. I love it over there. So I came to the Bronx actually when I was 11, and I grew up like every other New Yorker at that time in the late 80s. So grew up, went to school, went to high school, and I grew up actually hearing stories about my grandfather and my grandma back in the day. And I figure it's a good story. I wanted people to actually know and find out about it. And during the pandemic, actually before that, I kind of started outlining something, and I started watching a bunch of YouTube during pandemic to learn how to write, how to actually make sense of what you're actually writing and make it appeal. And then I was grabbed by the writings of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the way that he described things. I love that because he actually immersed you into the reading. And when I was a kid, I remember a story. I don't know if you remember that movie. It's called The Never Ending Story. It's about it's about that big
of course.
white
Look,
dog.
if you are a lover of books and if you grew up reading, you love that movie.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do.
Was a perfect movie for readers.
That's correct. That's correct. So that kind of I'm going to tell you a little secret though. I don't like to read per se. I'm actually more of an audio person in terms of books because I think I have like some type of HD or something that the words just jumps out of me. And actually I had a big problem writing this book initially. But that movie kind of gave me the whole inspiration to make it in a way that the reader actually is going inside kind of with the characters and kind of traveling through what you're reading. And I kind of love that. So I kind of merged that combination of how describing things the way that Gabriel Garcia Marquez did and took that movie as an inspiration to make it more vivid and make sure that readers were actually understanding what I was trying to project. And the book is more kind of it's a fiction, but there has a lot of truth to it based on what my grandparents actually lived through that time, and also what I live as an immigrant in the Bronx at that time. So I kind of blend all that in and created this novel.
So, did you grow up surrounded by books?
I wasn't a bookworm, but I like books, and I was actually. Like I said, books did not, I wasn't the type of student that will just immerse itself into a book. I didn't learn that way. But I love the stories and I love, I mean, and actually, tell you the truth, there was actually a book that captivated me when I was in high school that was going through Don Quixote from Cervantes. I loved also the way that the novel was written in a way of the characters were actually imagining things. So even though I wasn't immersed into books and having a bunch of books, there were like several stories that kind of built me to kind of create this inspired story.
In other words, a natural born nerd.
Yes.
Or someone in your family has a creative side.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, I consider myself very creative.
I am from your generation. I was born in 79. I didn't grow up around books, right? I was introduced to stories and reading in school, and I didn't start writing till I was in middle grade when one of our teachers had us submit a story to a writing contest.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And then that exercise in itself was what said, a light bulb went into my head and said, oh, people
I want to do that.
People write?
Okay.
For a living?
Yeah.
What?
No, that's great because you actually developed that at a younger age.
What was that moment for you that told you I should write? Right? Because you could have just continued passing on the stories that your elders were telling you from one generation to another, but you decided to put it to a page.
Yes. And actually that was probably, I wanted to do that pre-pandemic. Because like I said, I loved the story and I knew that I wanted to do it. But during pandemic, actually, I did wrote children's book, kind of starting little, doing rhymes and things like that. And I think that I got that probably from my grandmother. She was very creative in that sense of creating rhymes, like old type of rhymes from old timers. And she used to like write a lot. So perhaps I got that from her.
DNA.
Yes, I will say that. So I did those stories for the children's book. I have a series called Barry, The Adventures of Barry the Wiener Dog. That's actually the pet dog for my daughter, Kristen. And that kind of gave me, I guess, a safe haven to say, oh, wow, I could probably do this. I didn't release them back then when I wrote it. I just released one of them just recently. And that kind of built that confidence that I could probably do it. And this book actually took me probably 3 years to write because I wasn't confident, and I suffered a lot of writer's block when I was doing it. So that I kind of kept setting it up like it's gonna take some time. I'm gonna wait till it's perfect and all that stuff. So that kind of prevented me from releasing something that probably I could have just released it earlier. But all that confidence, I needed to build it through those years. So I will say that right before pandemic, that's when I kind of felt a little bit more secure that I could write something.
Nice. Okay, so let's get into the book. Okay, was there so this book blends history with fiction?
That's correct.
Right? How did you approach weaving the historical and the fiction narrative? Pero antes que eso, tell us about the book.
Okay, so
you have it there. Can you show it to folks?
I do. Actually, I do have it.
Cover to folks. Okay.
That's the English version.
Show the side. How thick is this book? About 300 pages, 350?
Yeah, about 265 or so.
265? Okay.
Yeah.
Quick read.
Yeah.
That's a quick read.
Yeah, it's quick read. This is the Spanish version.
Okay.
They had it backwards there.
Nice. Okay. So ahora, tell us how you blended the history and the fiction.
Correct. So,
and where did you get the story from, right?
Yes.
Was this one of the stories that your elders was passing down, or was this something that you just came up with on your own?
No, actually, it was actually a true story from what my grandmother was telling me and my mom. I never actually knew my grandfather. I was born in 1977, and he actually passed the same year, so I never knew him. So the story behind it is that he was actually a captain in the Italian army back in World War II.
Really?
And yeah.
And he was Dominican?
No, he was Italian. He was Italian. And the way that he migrated to the Dominican Republic was incredible to me. He actually had to like dress as a priest, change his last name, traveled. I mean, he didn't go by plane. He actually took a boat and kind of went to DR and met his brother. Now, this is the thing. His brother was a geologist appointed by Trujillo. Wow. He was also Italian, and he was one of the first who laid out the ground for the whole mining operation of Pueblo Viejo in Cotuí, right? So they were like doing all this mining thing for Trujillo, basically, when he went to DR. And listening to all that stories, I was like surprised. I was like, this could be a Netflix movie, right? And then further that, my grandma actually, she comes from a very like Campito de Salcedo, like all the mountains, and she goes to the city, and that's how she met my grandfather, right? And they built this coalition, I guess, as a couple. And at the time, they were actually exporting gold, like smuggling, I will say, gold out to Italy. And actually, I have a capture of that in the book where she actually built kind of a one of those bat belts, I would say like utility belts, just to smuggle gold out of the mine and take it to Italy without being discovered. And then the story take a twist because I think they were making, at that time, they were trying to make a deal with an American company, which I think is the Rosario. There was a lot of, I guess, at the time, there was a lot of mistrust because Trujillo, remember, you didn't know who you're talking to. And I think that the story goes that, or one version of the story is that my great grandfather was going to go into business with an American businessman to exploit the mine further, and Trujillo didn't like that. So what they ended up doing was actually inviting my great grandfather, my great grand uncle, into a helicopter ride, and the helicopter just blew up. And that created that intrigue of why did happen. I mean, is it spies trying to, I guess, go after my family at the time. So that was kind of a very ambiguous story. So all that, as detailed as that, is not actually in the book. There are certain like stories that I picked from what I was being told, and then I ended up doing search. The reason that I did the search, I was like, how these Italian guys came to DR and ended up finding one of the biggest mine, I guess, in Dominican Republic, which still to this point, there are some issues with it and they found those issues back then in the 1950s when my grandfather was working on the mine as well. And almost lost my train of thought there. But back in the reason my great uncle was there was that back in when he was in his studies in Spain, he was reading books from this miner, Juan Nieto Barcasel, that he was sent to DR from Spain, I guess, from the Consejo de Indias at that time that used to govern that region, and told him to like explore, see what you can find. We need to exploit, I guess, Dominican de Español at that time, so we could take all the gold out of there. And all those books, my grandfather, actually not my grandfather, his brother read it, and he actually was very interested, and he knew that there was gold there based on those readings, and he somehow convinced Trujillo at the time so he could become the director of mining for the country. Then he ended up inviting my grandfather over from Italy to join him into that degree. One of the things that they were also doing was looking into the amber extraction from Dominican Republic as well. So a lot of the groundwork.
All our minerals, all our natural minerals.
Yeah, all the natural minerals. That's correct.
Have more colonizers continue exploiting our natural minerals.
That's true. That's true. Right. To this date, actually, at the time, there were sayings that there were environmental concerns based on how that mine, I guess, derived into the Cotuí Valley. All the rivers there were getting contaminated, and that's actually the same issue that we're having today.
Yeah,
that they're displacing people in that region, so they actually continue expanding that mine, which I feel like that's just ridiculous. I mean, they've been doing this for ages. I mean, I'm talking about when they started doing this. That's why, like, that's the 17th century when Columbus arrived to the island, and they continue doing that through the years.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. So talk to us about you weaving the fictional and the historical elements in this novel.
Yeah, so basically I have to, like I said, I had to be careful with some of the stuff that I put in there because I didn't want to create controversy. I wanted to make it more as a story that people could relate and take it for good. And to tell the truth, the reason after I continued, I kept writing the story. I wanted to see if perhaps I make a character, this Tony Costa guy, that he's a kid, he's 17, he's trying to figure out why his dad died. And then he's finding all these secrets based on the journals that his grandfather left him. And the idea behind it is I wanted to make something that it could have more of a value as a series, for instance. So my focus right now is, okay, how can I now take this Tony Costa to the next level and make him, I guess, the next Indiana Jones or something like that, so he can continue with the story.
I love that. Here and when you mentioned that, a couple of books came to mind, right? You have Mother Archive by Erika Morillo. If you haven't read it, please go read it.
Okay.
The book is about her researching her father's history. Her father disappeared during the Balaguer Trujillo regime.
Okay.
And her parents had no clue what happened to him. Like, her mom had no idea, her family didn't know, and she grew up without her father. Then there's the part that her mom isn't very much of a nurturing mother, and she went searching into her mother's history to find out who her mother was. Okay. as she's doing all this DNA research and ancestry research, she comes upon all this history. Which we also, for folks who don't know, we offered genealogy research, and if you guys are interested in that, let me know and I'll send you the information. And aside from that, there's the books by Julian Randall. Julian has a series for young adults called Pilar Ramirez. And it's about this teenage girl who travels back in time in DR. And she goes through all these things. The first book involves Trujillo, but it's a book with magical realism. So I highly encourage you to read the 3 books in the series, because I think you're going to get some great inspiration to write your series. Specifically because yours is young adult, and that, and after you write it, Victor, I would also encourage you to shop it to an agent.
Okay.
We'll
do. Actually, I will do.
I just because me listening to you about this book, I think the book has everything that a literary agent may be looking for to publish it traditionally. And just because you self-publish your book does not mean that they won't publish it. Okay. I have worked with authors who have self-published their books, who then got picked up by a publisher and they republished it.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Okay. So
I thought that was never possible.
No, it is possible. The book that I mentioned is actually this one. This book was self-published. She self-published this book. And then who was it? I think it was Penguin Random House.
Penguin. Okay.
Picked it up and republished it. And it's even, I believe it's also a graphic novel. Okay, so she has the novel, but it is also a graphic novel. Right? So, mi gente, no crean que porque ustedes autopublicaron un libro aquí en los Estados Unidos que no es posible publicarlo tradicionalmente. You do have to be a U.S. resident for that to happen. But it is possible. And we could have a consultation where I talk to you about the whole literary agent thing, okay? Because I believe is totally doable, okay? So read those 4 books. And I think you'll be great at this, okay?
Thank you.
Another thing that I want to talk to you is that Tony's journey centers on uncovering his family's hidden past, right?
Yes.
What do you think about families keeping secrets? And how do you think that's going to resonate with readers? The whole.
Well, I think as a Latino, as you know, like we Latinos, for some reason, our ancestors, they keep secrets from the kids, right? And I think that's one of the things that kind of resonates with people that reads the book, is that they're interested because it probably happened to them, right? They have a grandmother or a mother or father that actually have some type of secret that happened a long time ago. They never converse that with their kids, and they try and find this out later on in life.
So basically, we're all gonna relate.
Basically, right? I think that we all have a little bit of that.
We all gonna relate, because si no fue tu mamá o tu papá o tu abuela o tu abuelo, alguien está guardando un secreto.
Tenía un secreto. Sí. Y no sé por qué, pero eso es muy común en la familia latina.
It's funny.
Muy común.
We will tell everybody's story but our own.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Eso se llama el chisme.
So, you have identity and resilience as key themes in a novel.
Yes.
How did your own experiences as a Dominican immigrant shape these themes in the book?
Absolutely. That's actually a great question, because when I was actually growing up in the Bronx, during that time, as you know, there was no internet like we have now. There was no YouTube that you could actually pick up and learn. And it was hard to learn the language. It was hard to relate to others. It was hard to kind of come up with common grounds, because also, like, my family, they were like overprotective, so they were like, no, you like don't go out, don't go with friends and stuff like that, and that kind of made it harder. Exactly. So it makes it harder to blend in with the community. And you have to create some type of resiliency to accept the change and kind of just move on and grow up. And that kind of resonated with me into writing the stories. Like you're coming in from a different country, putting into a neighborhood that you never seen before, with people that are perhaps are not from, because at that time the Bronx was not that heavy Dominican, right? So there was not like even Latinos at that time. It wasn't that heavy as well. It was just a
You
mix
didn't
of little
move
of
to the Puerto
groups.
Rican side? You
What was that?
didn't move to the Puerto Rican side of the
No,
Bronx?
we did. We actually, I was in the East Tremont side. That was my neighborhood. And yes, we did have Puerto Ricans, but we also had Jamaicans. We all had the Morenos. We had like all these races, ethnicities actually in as a mix, that it wasn't like it is now. Like right now, you can probably go to the Bronx perhaps, and you have blocks of upon blocks of just one single ethnicity, right? The same thing as well, not too much with Washington Heights anymore because of gentrifications, but yeah, but eventually at that time you had to be resilient in order to kind of survive that jungle, I will say.
Yeah, I agree. So then you have the story moves from the Bronx and the Dominican Republic. How do these two settings contribute to the story's atmosphere?
Absolutely. So basically, because Tony's background, he is Dominican, he is actually living in the States. He finds out that his past, actually, the way that his father died, was so intrigued that he knew that he needed to um, find out what was the motive behind it. And upon reading the journals of his grandfather, that's how he immersed himself into reading the story of the Dominican Republic. But one caveat though, he did find out in a beach in oh, this light just went off here. But he did actually find out in a beach, I don't know if you know, Guandolio over in Dominican Republic, that his father died. So that kind of brings that loop back together into his background of how his grandfather, because same as me, he didn't know his grandfather. He's learning about him through the journals, and he's finding all the secrets that they were having because of the mines. He didn't know that that was basically the whole reason behind it.
Right. Oh, wow. Very intriguing. Okay. So Tony goes on a transformative journey in search of his family's past. What do you hope readers take away from his growth and discoveries?
I will say, never give up to look for the truth. If you feel like something is not right, just keep searching and you'll find it. I think that the way that Tony actually took it upon himself to not to listen to his mom, not to listen to his family, perhaps to finding the truth, he did what he needed to do to get to that. And by doing that, he actually was able to learn more of what was his family like, right? Because all these secrets were kept from him, so he didn't actually know mainly the story about his grandfather, and he's learning all this because he kind of he kind of raised his hand and say, I want to find out, I want to look into this.
Right. Um, can you read us a little bit of the book?
Sure, absolutely.
Is there a page that, you know, readers might be like, what's the page that readers will be like, I need to go buy this book?
Let's see. Let me see. But I didn't actually mark it. But let me read you. Let me read you. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. It's actually a. Let me see if this is a page. It was actually a good story uh, that actually happened. It was actually true. My experience exciting feel about. Let's see, that's not it. I'm trying to find out. There was a story from my grandfather that it was actually, I would remember all the time about it. Let me see if there's the page. No, I'm sorry. I didn't came prepared to.
Well, while you
Okay.
find that, let's talk about the title of the book, right?
Yes.
So the title refers to shadows beneath the shore. What do the shadows symbolize in the context of the story?
The shadows is the hidden, is basically the lurky of the hidden truth, right? Is what Tony did not know about his family, and how they actually he was kept from the light in a sense, and created that shadow for his family. But the the shore, it was basically to resemble that he originated from the Dominican Republic. Everybody, when you talk to people and you talk about Dominican Republic, the first thing that comes to their head is whoever it is, it will be, oh, I've been to Punta Cana, right? So everybody knows that the beaches in Dominican Republic are wonderful and they're beautiful. So I want to kind of resemble that there were some lurky past that arrived to the shore. And that's how also my grandfather arrived to the island, was by boat.
Did he land in Puerto Plata?
No, he landed in Santo Domingo.
Okay. So he docked in, oh wow, okay, from Italy, he docked in Santo Domingo. Okay, very interesting. If you have not researched your ancestry, I highly encourage you to do that.
Yeah, I haven't actually. I need to definitely do that. Let me see. Is this the?
You find it?
I think I did. Let's see. Okay. All right. So this how it goes. It's actually a story that did happen when he was actually in the barracks, I guess, in Italy. So it says Antonio's comrades were hungry and desperate for something to eat. Antonio actually is this particular passage is that Tony is reading through his grandfather's journal, and he's looking at a passage where he's kind of telling how the war actually has been affecting him in Italy. And this one goes, this is page 71. It says, Antonio's comrades were hungry and desperate for something to eat. They turned to Antonio, knowing that he had a knack for finding food in the most unlikely places. So, Antonio, can you go out and see if you could find something for us to eat? Preferably not your boot, because we had enough of that. One of these comrades, Marco, asked him jokingly. I'll do my best, but I can't make any promises. I'll see if I could find something better than my boot. Antonio replied with a chuckle, feeling that the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He set out into the war-torn streets, searching for any sign of food, but the roads were empty, the shops were closed, and the markets were barren. Antonio searched high and low, but could only find a few rats scurrying around the alleys. As Antonio walked through the deserted street, he couldn't shake off the feeling of defeat. He had searched every corner, every alley, every shop, but all he could find were closed doors and empty shelves. He was about to give up when he heard the faint sound of a scurrying coming from the alleyway. He cautiously made his way towards the sound and saw a group of rats running around. At first, he was disgusted by the thought of eating rats, but as the hunger pains grew stronger, he realized that this might be their only option. He quickly scanned the alley for something to catch the rats with. His eyes landed on a nearby trash can lid. He lifted it, and with a swift motion, he trapped one of the rats beneath it. He repeated the process until he had caught 3 rats. He felt a mix of guilt and regret for having to resort to such measures, but he knew it was necessary to keep himself and his comrades alive. As he walked back to the barracks, he couldn't help but think about the harsh realities of war and how it had reduced him to catching rats for food. He thought about his family back home and how they were probably struggling just as much as he was. He made a silent promise to himself that once the war was over, he will never let himself or his loved ones go hungry again. Antonio made his way back to the barracks. His comrades were waiting anxiously for his return. Did you find anything? or are you going to make you eat your socks again? Asked Marco. I did. I found something better than my boots or socks. I found some pigeons. Antonio lied smoothly, trying to conceal the truth. So I'm going to stop it there. But behind this, actually, it was a story that it happened. It was true to him. It actually happened to him, and I heard it a couple of times from my mom, and I heard it also from my grandma at the time. And it makes you think. I mean, wow. I mean, when you're in war, I mean, and you're trying to eat, I mean, you do anything. And learning that he was actually doing that at the time, and kind of just to keep himself alive and his friends, it kind of moved me, right, at that point. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, because it's one of those stories that it was true, and I wanted to keep it in the book because it was funny, but at the same time, it's the reality of war, and that's what it does to you as a human.
What about so this is the first book that you published?
Yes, as a novel, yes. Like I said, I have
what was the most challenging aspect of writing the book and publishing the book?
Besides the writer's blocks, I think it was mainly learning how to publish. I mean, the whole walkthrough, learning Amazon KDP, learning.
So you mean that you didn't connect with us and
I didn't know.
ask us?
No, I did. At the time, I didn't know. I thought I was kind of like, oh, I have to just Google it, look at YouTube and find it. Wow. I didn't know you guys were there to help with this kind of stuff. I don't know why I found out about you just recently, actually. Looking into, okay, now I have this published, how do I market it, right? I mean, that's
how did you find us?
Instagram. I just started looking at Instagram and started looking. I'm like, oh, wow. So they have a whole Dominican Writers Association. What is this?
Right.
and it was great.
We also have a self-publishing ebook that we sell.
Okay.
It is 68 pages and it's on Amazon.
Really?
I put it together during the pandemic. 68 pages of everything that's in my brain on how to go about publishing, marketing, and promoting your book.
Okay, I'm getting that today.
Yes. So, but I mean, we do courses, but how do I say this? I don't have them on YouTube or anything. They're usually private courses. People need to sign up, but I should do a YouTube channel when I have time one day.
Absolutely. Because no, you should actually do your sessions and record them or whatever. Because it was helpful for me when I was starting to write the book, trying to come up with that outline, trying to create those characters, kind of relate the story, map everything out. All those stuff I learned not because I went to a course or anything, a class or whatever. I learned them actually in YouTube.
So your book is for young adults, right?
Yes,
so
it wasn't
17.
Yes,
right.
That's true.
What made you decide to make this a book for young adults as opposed to adults?
Interesting that you say that, because when I was writing the book, I never thought about this to be a book for young adults at all. And even not even the only genre that I understood at the time was historical fiction. I know I was doing some historical facts, and it wasn't all of it true. So in my head I was just writing historical fiction.
And you ended up with a 17-year-old main character.
Yeah, I did.
How?
That's true. Because in some way, Tony Costa is actually myself when I was 17 in the Bronx, right? And somehow I want to portray that because he was leading through the same steps that I took at that time. Like, for instance, there's a passage
Tony is based on you.
On the experience of the Bronx, yes.
Okay.
That's all me. I mean, I went to high school, to Park West High School. I don't know.
Oh my God, that was one of the worst high schools.
Imagine that. Imagine that. Yes.
I think my ex-boyfriend went to Park West.
Oh, there you go. I probably knew him. Pero
anyway, Park West was a bad school.
it was rough. It was rough.
I mean, like a lot of the high schools in those days and the time that you and I grew up with, and there was a lot of gang activity.
That's true. That's true. There was a lot of gang activity. It was rough. I mean, it was different times. You just have to kind of be resilient and kind of go through it. But the streets that like for instance, the station that I went for 4 years straight was 50th Street Station. Take the A train and the C train down to the Bronx. I mean, to 59th Street, so I could take the D train to the Bronx. 50, 50th Street, yeah. And all that is in the book because that was my life when I was 17.
Got it. Okay. So how many, are you reading a lot of young adult books?
I am now, because I'm trying to kind of see, did I do this right? I mean, did I actually hit the buttons right for young adults to actually be interested?
Which ones have you started reading?
There's what's the name? I think it's John Dominic. He created, is it John Dominic or Daniel Dominic? He has a series of called Luminosity, and it's basically kind of a gold city. It's interesting because it's similar to my book in terms of
adult.
And it's young adult, yes.
Okay, what about Latino young adult?
Latino young adults, I haven't read any.
Okay, stop playing yourself, okay? You need to be reading our stories. Mira, this is one I highly recommend. Never Look Back.
Okay.
Based in the Bronx. This young girl gets displaced during Hurricane Maria. Her family moves back from Puerto Rico to the Bronx.
Oh, that's recent.
She falls in love with a Dominican guy who wants to be a bachatero, I think.
Oh, there you go.
So this is by Lilian Rivera. Anything by Lilian Rivera, I highly recommend. She's a wonderful young adult author. Anything by Elizabeth Acevedo as well. If you want to read more,
I follow both of them.
If you want to read more male characters, there is an author here. I'll tell you right now. Hold on. My young adult section is on the other side. This is our only Dominican young adult author.
Okay. Who's that?
Traditionally published.
Oh, really?
Okay. His name is Fred Aceves. He is Dominican and Mexican. He writes a lot about body image. Okay. But his characters are men, are young adult men. I highly recommend you read him too. This book is called The Closest I've Come, and I think he talks about body dysmorphia in this book. No, it's this one. This one is called The New David Espinosa, also by Fred Aceves. And this is the one that talks about body dysmorphia. This one I think has to do more. Marco Rivas Yearns for Love. So I guess it's about he finds love and friendship in high school, which is not common themes that we see among young boys and young adult novels. So also, as you read these books, look at who's publishing them, right? Because, for example, this is published by Harper Teen. Okay. Epic Reads. Epic Read is also who published Poet X. Okay. By Elizabeth Acevedo. So as you read these young adult books, also look at who's publishing these Latino stories, because your book is Latino. It has a lot of Dominicanidad in it, and you need to find a literary agent who's going to go to bat for that. Okay. Right? If you find a literary agent who's not interested in Latino stories, you're not going to sell the story. Of course. So you need to find a literary agent that has represented stories like your own, and pitch those agents, right? So I have a list of young adult books that I would highly recommend to you, but definitely read our young adult Dominican and Latino, because that's who you represent, and that's what you're writing, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the trend I want to follow.
Also,
That's
anything by Jason Reynolds. That's my boo. I love him. Jason Reynolds has a beautiful book that came out recently. It's called 24 Seconds, I think it is. And it's about a young teen boy who falls in love in high school. And it's such a beautiful story. A very easy read también. I did it on audiobook, but I highly recommend. I bought the book for my kid and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, let's talk about this. I'm like, you're 17, the character is 17.
yeah.
You know, but yeah, I highly recommend that you continue doing research by reading the genre that you're writing about.
Yeah. Like I said, I just found out just recently, actually, perhaps when I was doing the translation to Spanish, because that was another thing. When I did the book, I did it in English because I was more comfortable in writing in English at first rather than Spanish. So I was able to develop all that faster, right? But then after it was done, I was like, man, I mean, this actually belongs in Spanish because that's my people. That's who I want them to read. And that's why it was very important to me to do the translation. That it just happened to be published in December. So
who translated your book?
Actually, I paid somebody in Fiverr.
Did they do a good job?
They did. They did a decent job. Yes, they did.
Decent?
They were able to no, they did a good job. I mean, they were able to relate exactly what I had and what I intended. There were certain things though that were very too Dominican to be translated, which I had to like fix it myself. But yeah, so there was a little nuances throughout that I needed to do myself. Yes.
Right. Okay, that's good. So what are you doing? How is the Spanish book version selling? You said you published it in December?
In December.
Okay.
Surprisingly,
it's just
doing much better than English. It's doing much better than English.
Really?
Yes. Because it's
why you think
because he opens the market in Italy, he opened the market in Spain and in Mexico, where the English side of things is I guess is focused only in the US. I mean, most of my sales for that is only in the US. Yeah. And again, I started learning about this other publishing platforms out there other than Amazon. I just started publishing in Ingram Spark.
Yes,
started publishing
that is where you're
Lulu.
supposed to be publishing.
Yeah, and I didn't know none of that a couple of years ago. So yes, there's still a lot of things that I'm finding out that I'm learning. I'm just happy that people are getting the book and kind of giving me reviews. I mean, I love when people say I related to that book.
Did the folks that I connect you to reach out?
They did. Actually, I did send the books to them. They haven't actually turned it back to me of what the review. I didn't want to put any pressure on them. I know that it was over the holidays, so people were actually still kind of New Year's, Christmas kind of thing.
Okay.
So I was like, no, do it whenever you're able to.
Once 3 weeks mark hits, reach out to them.
Will do. Will do. No, thank you. Thank you.
And tell them I said that they have a deadline.
Okay. Will do.
Okay.
Will do.
That is super important. So Victor, where can people buy your book in English or Spanish or even the audiobook?
Yes, so I'm in Amazon. I mean, you could also reach out to victoracosta.com, which will probably point you back to Amazon to get the books.
Why are you not selling the book yourself instead of Amazon?
I don't know how. I don't know why. I should, right? I mean, that's one of the things.
Your book directly, and if people find it on Amazon, they find it on Amazon because Amazon is gonna give you a tiny little cut for royalties of every book you sell. But if you sell it yourself, you keep the majority of the income.
That's true. I completely agree. Yes, I'm working towards that.
Though you do need to set yourself up so that you're able to take orders through your website, right? And dedicate at least 1 day a week where you're packing books and shipping them out yourself.
Yes.
Un libro firmado por Victor, ¿verdad? Cualquier otra cosita, maybe un book. Vamos a hablar, porque vamos a hablar.
Tenemos que hablar. Vamos a hablar.
Yeah.
Did you actually get? ¿Te llegó el libro? I did send it over to you a while back.
When?
¿Nunca te llegó?
You did? When did you send it?
3 weeks ago, probably.
Victor, I got so many books.
I bet.
I will need to check because, yeah, I need to check.
I think I see it. I see it up there, I think.
Really? What do
Yeah, is the black one next to the blue one, right in the middle there. Después de la botella de Brugal, a la derecha, bajo la izquierda tuya. The other side. I think it's that one. Because
No.
he looks...
This?
The black one, no?
This one?
Yeah, it looks like...
No, this...
That's not it? Oh, okay. Because he looks like my spine, so I was like, okay.
This is the British cover for Family Lore in Spanish by Elizabeth Acevedo.
Okay.
So Britain, for the UK, for some reason changes the book covers for Dominican titles, and I buy them.
Okay.
So this is the book that I was referring to you, de Pilar Ramirez.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look because just the other day I also organized my bookshelf, so I don't know. ¿Dónde metí el libro? Yeah, if I did get it, I'll check and I'll let you know. 3 weeks ago. Okay. I don't remember getting books 3 weeks ago.
Really? I'll have to check the tracking though, because they did tell me when I did the shipping, they told me, well, that we haven't sent anything to that address. You still want to send it? I'm like, well, yes. I mean, that was the
Wait,
address.
how you sent it through UPS, post office? How?
Post office.
Okay. You sent it through media mail?
Oh, no. Just regular mail.
So whenever you're shipping books in the post office in the United States, you get a flat rate fee for media mail. That means shipping of books. So you should always let people know I'm shipping media mail, and the price is $4.63, no matter where you're shipping.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
It's always going to be that price.
Okay.
Make sure you let folks know.
Okay.
But
absolutely.
Okay, folks. Does anyone have questions for Victor? ¿Alguna pregunta para Victor? This is the perfect time for you to be promoting this book with this whole Barrett Gold thing going crazy.
That's right. Actually, I did send it over to the Biblioteca Nacional over in DR. I think I want to have it there. They haven't reached out back saying that they got the information, but
so do they accept books just like that, like you sending them?
Yeah, you just have to catalog it, and you say, I want my book to be cataloged in the library.
Where that book should also be included is an EB. EB is the international. They're like the Dominican International Archive of Dominican Books.
Okay.
So we work with them, and we send. Well, if you register your book with us, then they have your book
already
on their list, but they don't have a physical copy. They just have the book listed on their
catalog,
on their database, because we send them our list.
Okay.
And we also send our list. Once you register your book with us, we also send that list to the Dominican Studies Institute, who also includes your book in their archive. But if you want to donate a book to the Dominican Studies Institute so they could have it physically in their library, you could do that. Just go on Google, look up Dominican Studies Institute, look up the address, and send it to Jensen Ortiz.
Okay.
As a donation, and let them know that I referred you.
Okay. Thank you.
And what they will do is that they'll receive your book. They'll likely, I think their process is that they also share it on their social media that you donated a copy of the book, and they also keep it in their library.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But that
absolutely.
book, aside from them archiving it, it is also registered in the WorldCat database.
Oh,
so
okay.
that scholars and researchers who are looking for Dominican literature can also come across your book.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, so make sure that you register your book with us. The link is in through our bio. If you scroll all the way down somewhere, it says register your book. No me acuerdo.
Yeah. I think I already
Okay.
did register there. Yeah.
All right. It's just so much info.
It is. No, it is.
Are you still in New York?
No, actually, I live in Davenport, Orlando. That's kind of near Orlando in Florida,
O sea,
which is
en casa
actually
del diablo.
very close. Sí.
Okay. Para allá no hay mucho. Bueno, besides you, no, there's a few other Dominicans.
But it's hard. But it's hard to kind of
Yeah.
gather, right? I mean, the locations here are very far away.
Bueno,
And
if you ever come to New York,
yes,
or maybe you should come to New York the first week of May.
absolutely.
The first weekend of May, we have the Dominican Book Festival.
No, absolutely, I'll be there.
Which I haven't shared yet, the flyers or anything. But the Dominican Book Festival is done along with the Ministerio de Cultura. We help out with the event, and it's a 3-day weekend event.
Okay.
So come meet other authors. You would be able to set up a table.
Absolutely.
We haven't set that up yet, but anota para que,
sí.
pa que
No,
te acuerdes.
ya
Okay, and so you let me know as well if you're interested in coming, so that para yo hacer la gestión de acomodarte a ti. And I have a few other authors, children's book authors, that are going to be interested in attending as well. But you know, if you could make it here that weekend and come and share your book with us and meet other Dominican authors, that would be amazing.
Yes,
and we'll
absolutely.
be happy to have you.
Absolutely.
But thank you for sharing your book with us. Señores, el libro se llama Shadows Beneath the Shore, y en español, Víctor, ¿cómo se llama?
Sombras bajo la orilla.
Sombras bajo la orilla. Si quieren comprar el libro, vayan a la página de Victor en Instagram. Victor, you could put your Instagram account in the comments so people could follow you. Okay.
Yes, I will do.
Y también pueden comprar el libro de Victor en Amazon, aunque yo no lo recomiendo porque Amazon is Amazon, people. Apoyen el autor, compren su libro o compartan el libro si no lo pueden comprar. El compartir y decirle a la gente, mira, este libro, que esto, que lo otro, así como ustedes me vieron a mí compartir unos cuantos libros, que es gratis.
No,
así no gasté ni un peso en compartir esos libros.
I love that.
Eso es lo mismo que ustedes pueden hacer con el libro de Victor. Si ustedes conocen un adolescente, si ustedes conocen una escuela que quizá le interese el libro, excelente, which is another thing that I highly recommend to you. Create a mail list of educators and the schools in your area and pitch them your book.
Yes, I already started that. Yes, I'm actually getting it in the libraries around here, trying to create a kind of little workshops for kids to
and hit me up via WhatsApp so that I could give you a few connections in DR so that you could have your book for sale over there.
Okay. Actually, do you know the people in SDQ?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I know all those people.
Good. So, okay, good.
Let me know. Toda esa gente son mía. There's quite a few, about 5 bookstores that we work with in DR that we ensure that they sell our books. We have partnerships with them. So hit me up through WhatsApp y te doy la información. ¿Qué más? Yeah, I think that's it.
No. Thank you, Angie. Thank you for having me. I mean, you are the best. I mean, you are full of information, especially for authors like me that we just starting and we trying to navigate this world of rumors and things that we don't even know. I mean, like I said, you were mentioning that you didn't like Amazon, but basically that's, if you're a new author, that's the first thing you know. Yeah. There's nothing else.
I recommend Amazon if you live in DR, and that's it.
Okay.
Other than that, I never recommend Amazon to publish a book. But again, para la gente que no saben, la primera vez, ya la segunda vez, you know better, don't do it to yourself.
Don't do it again.
Amazon is not an author's friend.
Okay. No. So, I'm learning that the hard way. Yes.
You're gonna learn that. But reach out to me. I have a bunch of information to give to you, as well as ay, qué más era. Tuve ahora borré lo que te iba a decir, pero I'll remember.
Por WhatsApp,
A
tú me
couple of
dices.
things that I need to share with you. But Victor, thank you so much for joining us en Entre Letras. Señores, ya ustedes saben, compren y comparten, uno de los dos. Déjenle saber a la persona que le interese dónde pueden comprar este libro. Este video se va a guardar en nuestro perfil, donde van a poder mirarlo cuantas veces ustedes quieran, y ahí también voy a incluir dónde pueden comprar el libro y que sigan también a Victor, ¿ok? Si ustedes conocen otra plataforma que deban de entrevistar a Victor también, déjenselo saber.
That's true,
¿Ok?
that's true. Me dejan
Nada más
saber y yo de una.
Nada más no soy yo. Ok, so, gracias, señores, por estar aquí esta noche. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Ok, tengan buenas noches. Have a good night,
Gracias, Angie.
Victor.
Chao.